Hi there. Thanks for tuning in. I wanted to talk to you today about one thing that I see a lot of buyers not doing when they buy a home, and it is not smart to not do this one thing. So stay tuned. Let me tell you about it.
All things real estate and all things real estate.
So, when you buy a home, think about how many times you go and visit that home before you actually buy it, okay? So you go once and you see it for a showing. And if it's not a crazy market, you get to go a second time usually for a second showing and really decide that that is the home that you want to offer on. You make an offer, you get it under contract, and then a few days later you have an inspection. So most of the time buyers do attend the inspection, so that would be the second, maybe the third time that you see the house before you buy it. So then after you have inspection, it is probably usually 15-20 days before you actually close on the house, right? A lot of buyers don't see the house at all between inspection and actually closing and getting the house keys. And the one thing that they are missing that I think is really dumb not to do is that final buyer walkthrough. And it is so important to do, and I can't figure out why more buyers don't do it. Not my buyers. My buyers always do a final walkthrough before closing. And I'll tell you why. Because once you close on that house, it is yours. It is your responsibility. Anything that is wrong with that house is also your responsibility because you've signed the papers and now you own it. And guess what? If you don't do that final buyer walkthrough, and maybe it's vacant and it's been vacant for a while, and there's no one there checking on it, and something leaks in the house. Guess what? When you close on that house, you've just bought a house that has a leak in it. And it doesn't happen very often that there are any issues at buyer walkthroughs. Literally 99% of my buyer walkthroughs are just fine and there's no issues with them. Literally 99% of my buyer walkthroughs are fine and there are no issues with them. But there have been 2 or 3 different ones that there have been big issues with. One of them were some first-time home buyers that I had years ago doing the final walkthrough, and I was in one part of the house with the husband, and then the wife was in another part of the house. I heard her go out the back door, and I heard her scream out the back door. She opened the back door, and there was a big hole in the patio. Yeah, just a huge hole, like literally 2 by 2 feet deep in the patio. The sellers had been trying to fix a plumbing leak and had not told us about the plumbing leak, and we found out at the final walkthrough. If they had bought that house and had not done the walkthrough, they would have been buying that plumbing problem. That seller just simply didn't say it. So not a good idea to not do a final walkthrough. Another issue that I had with a buyer doing a final walkthrough was actually on a listing of mine. The buyer agent was doing the walkthrough, and she called, and I always know when they're doing the walkthrough, and I'm waiting by my phone to make sure there aren't any problems. And this time my phone rang, and it was the buyer agent saying that there was a leak in one of the secondary bedrooms upstairs. Literally water coming through the ceiling. And we were like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? And the sellers had moved out. It was vacant. It wasn't, they weren't trying to hide anything. It was vacant. So we had to postpone closing for a couple days. My sellers had to get an AC. It ended up being the AC that was leaking, that was in the attic, and it was leaking in through the ceiling. So they had to get it fixed. And we had to give a little bit of money to the buyer for repairing that ceiling and that kind of thing. But good on that buyer agent for taking those buyers through my listing and making sure that everything was good with the home that her buyers were going to buy. So please, if you're buying a home, do a final walkthrough before you actually finish and sign the papers and go to closing and get your keys. Do the final walkthrough. Make sure that house is in the condition in which you expect it to be before you get the keys, okay? That's all I have for you today, and I hope if you have any questions about anything real estate related, you get in touch. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
All things real estate and all things real estate.